Welcome to the Redpill Diaries, it's Craig. Today I wanted to speak about what it might be like if you were to retrospectively, is that the right word, look back upon these times as the good old days and the times where you could have done something but maybe failed to. And I'm thinking of a potential dystopian future. Again, not conspiracy theories. It's just this is just what ifs. Right. So if you were to look back and let's say your children's or let's say Generation X right now is 40 years old, right? And the world's in one world government. No one can move without the say-so of the system. Bureaucracy's just got worse and worse and worse. The wealth divide has also got worse and worse as time has gone on. You've now got 99% of wealth in the hands of 0.0001% of people, right? This dystopian future of effectively you could call it communism, or else if the people were not being looked after at all by the system, if you were basically outlaws just for existing, then that would be some kind of fascist Orwellian dystopia, right? And it wouldn't be communist then, it would just be fascist. The two are related, but they're not always the same thing, of course. So if you were to do that, what are the main questions you'd be asking yourself? What are the things I could have done to prevent this? How did I possibly fuck this up? What steps could I have taken? And what was actually going on during my lifetime? So, for most things in the world, to get a perspective of what's going on, I say this in trading videos, I say it when it comes to scam and agendas of all sorts. You take a step back, you look at the big picture. Because when you're in the weeds, you can't really see the forest for the trees, as the old saying goes, right? But you don't have to just take a step back and look at the whole planet rather than looking at your country or your village or whatever it might be. You've got to take a step back in time and look at things in the perspective of time in which the ruling elite look at things. So for example, the royal family of England, who are the most parasitic entity that is still existing at this stage that we know of, as far as a well-known entity. Damn, I just had my heater on. It's roasting here today. Yeah, that parasitic entity, they don't think in terms of just one generation. Actually, most people didn't. My neighbor here was talking about when he plants trees. He says, no, I remember when I was with my grandmother planting trees, and now I'm cutting them now. And we're planting trees for 2 generations ahead, 2 to 3 generations ahead. That's how it is. That's how we think. So maybe the reason they're doing better than us is because they're making us shed all these family values, and the nuclear family, all these things they've got rid of. Look what they're also doing. There's been prophecies where basically nefarious prophecies that state that men and women would all be the same one day. In other words, think of the old communist suits like you would get in Korea or China, right? Everyone dressed the same. This is probably where this different levels of things, such as I don't mean the LGBT so much, but the gender fluidity and all this sort of crap. The stuff that really is in your head, you're just feeding something, like you're feeding an attention seeker. Hey, do you think you have this? Oh really? Oh, that looks exciting. Yeah, I've got that. You're really feeding that kind of mindset. You're gay, but these other ones, I'm not always convinced they're really real. I think a lot of times it really is attention seeking, right? So when you get to the stage of having society turned on its head, so women being emasculated, sorry, not emasculated, women being given masculine qualities like you see in all these superhero things, what's it called, Captain Marvel and all that sort of stuff, and all this, the woman's beating me up. Like, how many series have we seen, from Killjoys to Dark Matter, which series I actually like, but I mean, you can't help but notice it's been forced down your throat, this masculinism of women, and also this this cuckery of men, but also emasculation of men, constant emasculation of men, especially of white and Asian men. When I say Asian, I'm talking about Oriental, not so much Indians. But they're included as well, but not as much. Well, it does definitely happen in India. There's definitely a push towards, for example, in the education thing. But then India does have a huge misogyny problem, and I'm not going to ignore that. So I'm not going to dwell on India at the moment, but I will definitely say that in the case of Japan, and even in China to a degree, you do have this emasculation going on in the male population. So again, I've taken a wide scope, right? Now, if you were to, as I said earlier, you're looking at a one world government. What would the steps have been to get there? So that might suggest that what we started with was a situation where we did have a global cabal, or a global group, or as George Carlin called it, a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I ain't in it. So we would have to be looking for these signs today, and we see these signs all around us, but we often call them conspiracy theories. Even though we know the skull and bones is true, even though we know that every Prime Minister Britain ever had has gone to either Eton College or has gone to Harrow. That's a fact, right? So even though we know all these facts, we just continually ignore it. So again, based upon that, this one world future, you would have to think, well, at some stage, they must have been able to lock the world down. Now, how would they lock the world down? Well, one of the ways is borders to stop us moving on the terrestrial level, and the other thing would be to have oversight on the extraterrestrial level for satellites, for example. How did both of those things come about? They came about through patriotism, first and foremost. Let's lock down our borders. So 150 years ago, the first countries started to get passports. Not everyone had it. Even until 100 years ago, you could travel the world fairly free without crossing borders and having to worry about going through a passport check. These are very recent times. You're talking about the last 50 years where the whole world's been locked up really like that. So it took 100 years just to get that to come in, that agenda. So think about that, just to lock you into the country that you're living in, to make sure you could not roam freely on the earth like any of the other animals could. So we're the least free of all the animals, think about that. No other animal really has, you might have a hierarchy, but you don't have a fundamental position saying, I have ruler, you don't have godlike or demigod creatures, propelled to the level of emperor in the animal kingdom so often. Again, you get a pride of lions that might have a head, that kind of stuff, but it's not kind of the same thing. You're not necessarily born into it. It's often by challenge, for example, and there's a degree of fairness to that. So the next thing to think about is, right, well, they've corralled us in through these things. That was 150 years ago, and it took 100 years to actually usher in. And then they started the satellite technology. Well, I mentioned many times, our phone technology comes from satellites. Well, look at Elon Musk, the stuff they're testing right now with those. It was actually kind of eerie when I seen that. I didn't know if it was true or not, all those dots in the sky, but people are taking videos of it. And these things are testing lasers to hit targets terrestrially. I mean, what the fuck's this all about? Why all these war games all the time? Especially now, especially before this pandemic, this plandemic happened. What is going on here? That's what I want to know. Something seems rotten in Denmark. Try to park somewhere where I've got shade for my little doggy woggy. Yeah, so I would say, if we were to look back on it, we would say, damn, if only we would have had the good sense to understand that those satellites, those nuclear missiles, those nuclear missiles were to make us scared of each other. They might not even exist, right? But those satellites, that was to use your money to build systems that would later be used against you, right? I'll park here. So yeah, so these systems would be used against us all, and that makes you think, maybe the whole time, all these the Cold War and all these other things, the standoff with China and the trade wars, tying in with my last video about all the financial instruments being fake. The only things that are real are tangible assets like house, land. What else? Commodities like gold and silver and oil. These are the things that are real, and these are the things that those assholes have been gaining more and more and more of with the fake money they print out, which if you're close to the money supply, you get more of. It's like the honey effect, the honey drips down, it's thicker near where it drops, and it's thin at the edges. So all of us are scrambling around making, giving our energy and sacrificing our capital to gain this nothing, this worthless piece of shit. But in the end of the scheme, that has kept us all enslaved. And what have we done? We've built highways, we've built technology, more importantly, because the highways are more for us. They don't really need this stuff. Once we're all dead, they can go around in flying cars, or they can start releasing the technology they've had for years. The technology that we know has been suppressed. I mean, we've, as I say, we've seen in a previous video, that we've seen the Muller Sky car was out 30 years ago. 30 years ago. We've had flying cars for 30 years, at least. We've actually had older ones than that actually have like fold-out wings and stuff, but I won't go into that. Of course, in more recent times, we've definitely got flying cars. I mean, it's easy to make one yourself. You can use the same servo controls in a large drone as you can on a small drone, to the circuitry to actually control the servos. So, it doesn't take a genius to work out that we could already go around in flying cars. We've already got nuclear power stations. We've already got the ability to have free energy. I'm not talking about these perpetual motion machines. I'm talking about sorry, I've got the windows open here. It's stinking hot, and my car hasn't got AC. I've just got a cheap, simple Skoda. It's like bomb-proof little car. I just wanted something that was like a tank that I could lend people when they come over here and stay at my house and not worry about. Anyway, getting back to the point. So there you are in the future, your children, right? Or next generation, if you haven't got kids, whatever. I haven't got kids. Well, maybe I have got one, but so next generation's wandering around and they're getting zapped in the head and they can't go out. They're timid and scared, and they're running away from the system. They're living like sewer rats, sewer dwellers. You know what I mean? Running away from the elite because they've basically all got warrants out for them, because the laws are continually getting ratcheted and ratcheted and ratcheted, and everything you do becomes illegal. Even thought becomes illegal. Think about that. All the things that Arthur C. Clarke and Orwell and all these other people, Philip K. Dick envisioned in their stories, are coming true right now. So it doesn't take a fucking brain surgeon to work out that maybe the governments are in cahoots, as I've said in many videos over the last couple of years. Maybe they're all in cahoots. Maybe they're all together. And what they've actually been doing is, when they were building this space race against Russia, they never knew when they were going to pull the plug on the system. So let's just have satellites now. Okay, let's leave the system going a little bit longer. Let's see if we can rinse the population more. Because even once they got 50% of the population of the capital, as they did back in 2008, through Obama's help, that was Obama who did that. But not really, he's just an actor. He was the puppet at the time. When the greatest wealth transfer of history took place. Of course, this one's going to dwarf it, because we can already see the markets have already quadrupled, and some markets have quadrupled in size. The derivatives markets, for example. We see right now, look at the price of gold and silver. I was just looking last night, and the price of gold was $2,200. The price of silver was $1,490, and yet guess how much it cost for a silver coin? $60. That just shows you there's a big disconnect, and these false markets are going to collapse soon. But what did that usher in? Well, we had China, and we had Russia from Hillary Clinton, pretending she's actually an enemy of Trump's. They're all the same. They're all in the same cahoots. Pretending that Sanders didn't allow Biden to win. Pretending that we all don't know that Biden's mentally defective. You know what I mean? So the thing is, the veil, this thin veil, is starting to melt away. The snow is melting and we're starting to see the truth. The problem is, some people are just so used to obeying, to accepting the word of their gods. The elite that steal from them and rob them all the time, but just continually, the elite that basically rape people's children and do things that we know are happening, and things they won't even let to go to court, and yet we all accept it. We all accept the Epstein situation, if it's even true. It might just be something to keep us distracted. That's how bad it is. That's how bad this whole distraction economy and distraction paradigm is that we're living in. We are the cattle. I'll continually say this every video if I have to. We are the cattle. The question is, do we get to live? Are we allowed to? Are we going to get harvested by them or by some other force that they actually work for? God knows. Maybe they're just permitted to be in the positions they are because maybe some beings that were here before us have left. That's why we've got all these ruins around, things that we could not build ourselves, things that it looks like would have to be done by supernatural forces to actually create, like the moving of 120 ton obelisks and things like that, and the cutting of them in saws that we don't have nowadays. There's so many things to look at, but again, look at the future. All these technologies, they're always way ahead of us. Look at Boston Dynamics, look what they're producing. Look at these satellites that Elon Musk is doing right now. What if in 20 years time this has become a perfected prison planet? And the reason they didn't do it straight away is they had to do it slowly, because again, for all we know, these things are serving things that live for longer than us. Maybe we're all energies, and these are just a flesh suit, including the lizard people, whatever David Icke calls them. I don't know if he means that figuratively or what, but the more I think about it, when I see Nancy Pelosi talking, like it does look like something of that creature in Men in Black, where he's got the cockroach suit and he's it does look like that. And when you see, I don't know if you've seen a video the other day with who's the guy who's getting done at the moment? It's not going to come to me. He's got a weird kind of Joker face. He's got a real critter of a face. It's on the edge of my tongue. It's so annoying. But he's being kind of indicted or whatever it is at the moment. Not indicted, but if I don't think about it, it'll come back to me. But they all seem to have these weird face movements, very strange. Hillary Clinton, and her eyes flicking, and all these things that people have taken pictures of on TV to look at that. What's going to happen to her eye, man? Some of them might be fake, but some of them are definitely real because they're on the mainstream news. If they're not real, then they're planted there for us again to make us just talk conspiracy and talk shit and go down rabbit holes and not prepare ourselves for what might be coming, or not prevent what might be coming, and actually stand together. And even 30% of society, even 20% of society, if we stand together, we can probably do something. The problem is that we have this massive handicap, which is the mentality of at least 50% of humanity. You're probably talking more like 60, 70 at least percent, actually, of people who are either incredibly stupid, like when I was a child in South Africa, watching these people being told to vote in Kata Freedom Party for, you could have said, here's a lollipop, and they would have voted for them. Hey, a lollipop, oh yeah, people who are so incredibly dumb that even if they haven't been a consumer of propaganda, especially then, the first time they're given it, they will just lap it up, like, You look at marketing, and it's based upon human psychology, and that's especially prevalent when you have low IQ people, because they have only the hippocampus. They only function in the lizard brain. Like, ooh, I feel horny. Yes, I'm going to rape someone. That's how they think. So what would probably happen is the authorities would rally those people against us or give them jobs. Like, hey, here you go, benevolent authority. This is why the authorities are being kind now. It cost them nothing. Even when it didn't cost them nothing to help people out before and build schools and help old people from having to choose between starvation and eating. Even though we now know they could have printed the money at any point in time, because they're doing it now. They're doing it for the bankers now. They did it for the bankers in 2008. Even though we know this is the case, they still charge us taxes, and they always have. They still don't help the old people, and only now, when they think it might cause a little bit of discontent, are they helping us. And this will be what fucks us, because the people who are suckered into thinking the government are doing them a favour and actually making a sacrifice for them when they're not. It didn't cost them anything to produce the money, They are all in cahoots with the corporations and all of the government entities, and the things that are related to it, like the Central Reserve and the Fed and things like that. So this is what I actually believe is most probably happening. When I look at this technology that's going on right now, when I look at this eerie situation that we can all feel that something's happening, you have to be emotionless or soulless to not feel that there's something not quite right going on here. Whether it pans out this time or in the next cycle of wealth disparity generation, because that's what this is. But this is still something odd. And I really think it's going to be panning out this time. I'd say it's a 60% or more chance it's going to pan out this time rather than the 2030 or the 2030s, right? Okay, of course the next cycle could be a 7-year cycle, so it could be 2027, right? Because they do actually go between 7 and 10 years usually, although this last one took 12 years. So they do mix it up a little bit here and there. Of course, there's also the 100-year cycles, which we're seeing right now. The 100 years ago, we had a global depression. We're facing to a global depression again. So there are various different cycles. There's also 4-year cycles in property markets, things like that. So yeah, these things are all paint by numbers. The universe is incredibly mathematical. You only have to look at the petals in many different species of flower to realize that, and the fractal geometry that exists in nature all around us to see that there is definitely something that is metaphysical, physical, and perhaps even simulated around us, or even semi-augmented. Pokemon Go, for example, but not to do with technology, but actually in our minds, augmentation of reality through other means. We really don't know. None of us do. And again, so that's not a conspiracy theory. It's a what if, imagine if. So please don't. Yeah. So if that's where we end up, the prison planet, there is no escape. I really believe we're at the cusp right now, where if we don't take action to demand, for example, right, if this case is true about Epstein, we demand Britain, because English is not Scottish that has anything to do with these things. So it is England's courts. Go bring in Ghislaine Maxwell, and go bring in Prince Andrew, and take it to the nth degree. And make it public, and we can see exactly what's going on to make sure you don't pull any shifty shit like we know you will do, right? And because those people all that doesn't matter. Basically, make sure they do that. Make sure they make inquiries, and not just inquiries. They make people accountable. Like Ben Bernanke, for example, make him fucking accountable. The things that people did for years. Look at Kissinger, the fucker. He's got the gumption, the audacity to even mention anything about where we're heading right now. This piece of shit was involved in the creation of OPEC and the creation of the situations that we have for the unhinging of the American dollar from the gold, the world, what's it called? The goldback dollar. Of course, they never gave back the money from Fort Knox then, did they, to all these other countries? And of course, England's holding its money. You've got a few countries in the world that don't have central banks. Apparently, they're North Korea and Venezuela. And look what they're doing in America right now. There is a battle against creatures and good, and the good is really getting its arse kicked. And evil, well, I would say that evil is a minority, but it's not. Because stupid is by default evil. Because good people, stupid will take the form, and it's like apple juice. You add apple juice to orange, you add apple juice to grape. All it's going to do is it will still, if you put in 50%, it's still going to taste like grape or orange. Apple adopts the flavor. That's the same as stupid. Stupid adopts the flavor. The problem is good people don't want to control others. Evil people do. So there you go. By default, the extremely stupid people are by default going to fall into the evil camp, all right? It's just the way it works. So we are now completely overrun with evil in this world. Of course, good are much stronger than evil. I'm not scared of it. I used to have dreams where I used to be, basically running through jelly. And now I never have that. I'm always the strongest person in my dreams. Have been for years now. It's good. And that's how I feel when I'm around evil now. And even when I've had a few times I got attacked in Denver twice, kicked the fuck out of these guys. But I used to flinch a little bit when I fought, and it wasn't just doing Krav Maga. I'm talking about it was actually a stage I got to that I just don't have fear. I think it's better taking a punch than potentially getting fucked up by one. You know what I mean? Better having your eyes open. And it's how I feel in life now. I just don't feel. I also don't feel scared of losing my life as long as I say, as long as my dog's taken care of. Yeah. I think we're nearing times where people need to step up. But stepping up too early if you're a leader is going to be catastrophic. I'm not saying I'm going to be one of these people. Fuck that. I can't stand people. I'm just helping people out. But in general, I can't stand people anymore. I've done too much for people in my life, and just been thrown in my face, and I can't be fucked. I've become a real selfish bastard right now. I'd even do these videos for more myself, just to get it out rather than keep it in. So unfortunately, I don't feel special. Just kidding. So yeah, I would say that if people don't start, when I say rally together, don't just talk, think, progress, team up with others. That's what they're doing right now. If you think about it, they're splitting us up so we can't talk. No more than 2 people may gather anywhere. Jello Biafra. Look, a really good tune by the DOC called Secret Plan. You got to check it out. But yeah, I mean, we can't gather together. I mean, of course, people here still can in Slovenia, but I mean, we've got masks on. We got it's locked down everywhere. The borders are shut down. Bulgaria, my brother was saying these people the other day got 5,000 leva fine, which is 2,500 euros fine. That's like a half a year's wages for some people there, man. You know what I mean? For walking around the park. You get people in the beach. Now I understand. And there's another thing. Look at the people. Like I just said before, they will indoctrinate the masses to be their foot soldiers. Well, look what's happening. People are going on there making memes already, basically shaming people for walking on the beach. My friend sent me one yesterday from Australia. Look how much space he lives in the Gold Coast. Look how much, and my friends live in Perth. Even more so. When you go up to Freo and not, you go up to Margaret River and stuff. There's so much space. It's insane. Australia has so much space to kind of insinuate that you need to keep distance in a place like that. Even when you walk normally, you're miles away from someone. If I'm walking around, I don't know, Airlie Beach or something, or bloody Harvey Bay, you're miles away from people. It's fucking bullshit. This is just to keep. So they're shaming you to make you think you should be outside. Meanwhile, they're telling you to go look at the supermarket here. I've got to keep two meters apart. Are you telling me that in these supermarkets where you're 2 meters apart, and there's maybe 1,000 of you in the B&Q in the UK or the Home Depot in America, that's somehow safer than us being outside walking 100 meters apart with our dogs somewhere? It's all fucking bullshit. It's all complete bullshit. Not just that, we already know that people who are getting sick have already said, my dad he was dying of cancer. He was in his last legs, and they're being counted as dying from coronavirus. And then you got, like I said in the video the other day, you have the slinky effect. Of course the hospitals are going to get busy sometimes. You know why? Because you were telling everyone not to come. So if the hospitals are busy almost every day, imagine what happens if you take 90% of the people out of those hospitals, except for critical people. Maybe the top echelon of those will become critical, and hence there'll be a backlog of people needing to go to the hospital. This has all been quite carefully engineered, in my opinion. So, you've got all that. You've got the test, which I don't. Okay, my friend, he's a biologist. My other friend actually studied what's called microbiology as well. So they both do know about the PC. It's escaping me now. I'll put the links below of the testing that was developed by Caro Tummins. What was it? 1984. He developed these tests. So they've been updated, and they actually do isolate these tests. They effectively, they don't culture it because it's not the same as bacteria. So rather than being genetic, it's actually a chemical process to duplicate the protein. But nevertheless, the virus cells, the virus themselves with the protein and everything, the RNA of it, basically, you're duplicating the RNA. They are as a one-strand RNA. But anyway, getting back to the point, the test apparently it multiplies them, so it's easier to effectively test for it. Now, from what I could see, they couldn't actually tell the difference between COVID-2 and COVID-19 and various other strains, but the documents I read, it didn't come out, but their explanation, as I say, they were both in that field. Although one went into, he's a psychiatrist now. I'm not going to say, oh, you're wrong, because that's just ego, isn't it? I would have to research more and say, I suggest you're not correct if I find something that's. But from the documents I read, I couldn't really see. I read what they were saying, but there was other things that led me to believe that it's looking for indicators from the increase of those cells, not the actual presence of the cells themselves. Not the cells, sorry, the virus itself. So the virus cells, if you, for want of a better expression. Okay, I'm going to leave that there just as food for thought. But I think that's what we're heading towards right now, is a global fascism. And I really don't know if all of our governments are in cahoots, because it seems a little bit too convenient that our whole world has these series of things intended to lock us down. That even in the internet was only given to us really because overall, the downside was that we can get the truth, but then all they need to do is saturate us with mistruths so that you don't know, out of the 9 out of 10 things that you're watching that are bullshit, which one is actually true. So in that case, what they did is they basically neutralized the positive effects of the internet for us, and it's still being used, but for them to link everything up, instead of just leaving it like ARPANET. People would have started asking questions. Well, people are already starting to use it. All right, I'm going to leave it right there. Yeah, I've been Craig, you've been you. It's been Redpill Diaries. Bye.